7 to order. Public notice will be read at the start of the public meeting. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco? Here. Mr. Bashada?
Present.
Mrs. Bloom? Here. Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Ms. Rubio?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Before we go into closed session, I notice we've got some guests in the audience. Our public meeting begins at 7:30. We have about an hour executive session meeting. Were you planning on addressing the board on a matter, or are you just here to watch the board meeting?
Just here once a week.
Okay, all right, then we're going to be resuming at 7:30. You're welcome to stay. If you want to go grab a cup of coffee, you're also welcome to do that. Okay? You're welcome. Can I have a motion to retire into executive session?
So moved.
By Mr. Walsh. I have a second by Mrs. Bloom. Can I have the resolution read, please?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, negotiations for the SCA, and the superintendent's evaluation. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Okay, thank you. The meeting is closed, and we will resume at 7:30. This public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Ed was emailed to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, further in accordance with NJSA 10:4-621. Copy is posted outside the Secretary's office and followed with the clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mr. Bashada?
Present.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Ms. Rubio?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Could you summarize executive session for us, please, Ms. Hill?
The board discussed personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, negotiations for the SCA, and the superintendent's evaluation.
Thank you. Our student council representative is not here today. We'll move on to presentations. For a brief update on HIB, we have Mr. Glock Malloy.
Evening, everyone. This is actually a fairly short presentation. Most of what is in the handout is a rehash of what was presented back in September. So basically, the pathway that works here, our principals submit a self-assessment of HIB grading based on criteria set forth by the DOE. They do that pretty much this time of year for the following year. We presented that information to the board back in September of 2017, and we submitted that information to the DOE shortly thereafter. The DOE just submitted back our final grade evaluation reports for HIVs for the 16-17 school year. This is not for the year that just happened. This is for the 16-17 school year. And basically, if we skip ahead, we can look at our summation here. Here are our principal self-assessment scores that were presented to the board back in September. And here are our final HIB grade report scores that came from the DOE. There is no change between those scores, so basically the DOE is affirming what our principal self-assessed back in September. There is a chart outlining where our scores have fallen, our final HIB grading scores for the last several years. You can see that we've stayed pretty consistent across the board, district level 66 to 64, back to 67. And once again, over the course of the summer, our principals were preparing their self-assessment for the 17-18 school year. which sometime around September of 2018, we'll be presenting that to the board and then submitting to the DOE. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Glock-Malloy?
Yes, I have several.
Mr. Bashada?
With the Hibbs, as a comparison to districts similar in our size, the breakdown between a high school, a middle school, if they have a UES like we have in the elementary schools, how would we be?
I'd have to get you specific numbers to give you a direct analysis, but based on meetings that I've attended, it varies greatly district by district, and size of district doesn't often seem to have a direct correlation. Much of it is based on reporting, community, information that's gone out there, and even in our own district, it's varied greatly year to year and building to building. So there are many factors that go into the HIB numbers, but the HIB self-assessment numbers are different than the actual HIB reports. This is based on programs and procedures and processes that our principals put in place to achieve a better school climate and culture. And to that end, our numbers are comparable, if not better, than other districts our size. What you're speaking of, the actual HIB reporting numbers, again, those vary year to year and building by building, but much of that, you have to remember, is based on a report. Our reports this year were higher than they had been in prior years, but our actual confirmed numbers, although slightly higher, were not greatly higher than they had been in past years. So that means we are getting more reports of potential incidents, but when they're actually being investigated by our anti-bullying specialists and our administrators, many of those are being found as non-confirmed HIBs, so not actually meeting the criteria.
One other question, with the programs that you're going to be introducing this year to educate on HIB, I think one of them is from Rutgers, if I'm correct.
Yes.
With these programs, we're going to train staff before the calendar year starts for 18-19, or is this going to be going on during the course of 18-19?
Some of the training is before the start of the school year. Other training is going on throughout the course of the school year. It's a continuous training. And not just with that, but with many, many other programs dealing not just specifically with HIBs, but with school climate and culture overall.
Have you, I know you must have studied this program that's being introduced, am I correct?
What program are you referring to?
The one about HIB training.
There's
Aren't
no
we
middle school.
instituting?
Is this on? There is no middle school HIB training program. The middle school participated in a Rutgers collaboration with the New Jersey Department of Education on a culture and climate study, so that they could determine the most appropriate character education program to implement at the middle school. And basically, the middle school is down to 3 different programs that they're contemplating implementing.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm not talking about just the middle school, I'm talking about the district-wide.
So
Is this the responsive classroom
The district-wide is
program, maybe?
responsive classroom. It was introduced 2 years ago at the Arla School and the Wilson School. This is the first year that it's being used in all of our K through 3 elementary schools. Next year, it will be implemented at the Samso Upper Elementary School. That has nothing to do with Rutgers. Responsive classroom is their own entity. It's a company that is research proven effective in terms of the creation of a program to improve the character of students. We are providing 4 days of training for over 30 staff members in July on responsive classroom from staff members from nearly all of our schools. Not the middle school, though. The middle school will be selecting a character education program based upon the assessment information that was collected and analyzed from their participation in that culture and climate study.
Now, the only reason I ask is because the total numbers and the confirmed cases, I'm not happy with them, I'll be very honest with you, and I would like to see better implementation of programs to lower the numbers.
And I would certainly say that we are working to work with our staff and our students to increase our climate and culture throughout the district. But sheerly looking at the numbers is not the only thing to consider there, because high HIV numbers on the surface means that students are reporting concerns and our staff are aware of concerns. And it goes to being aware of climate, culture, and mental health within the building. So seeing a high HIV number may simply indicate that our staff is aware and looking to remediate any potential issues with our students. It doesn't necessarily indicate a problem. It could. There's a lot more information there. And that's what our counselors and our HIV specialists and our principals work to resolve and remediate.
And if I might interject, you made a question earlier, Mr. Bashada, with regard to our high school, middle school, and intermediate school numbers. Are they comparable to other districts? And if your question was related to those age groups of students, if we went to different districts and we asked them which were the age groups or what school levels did they find to have the most reported cases of HIV or the most cases of HIV confirmed, it would certainly be those age group range, that age group range. I challenge anybody to go to any district where middle school is not probably the highest number of reported cases of HIV or confirmed HIV. In our district, SAMCEL is a close second as to the high school. So that age group and what do kids begin to experiment with in those age groups? Social media. And if you went and looked at all of our HIV cases, I would probably be willing to bet that at least half of them, over half of them, are related to social media. So we have been working pretty hard in different types of programs and activities, assemblies with our students to teach them about social media. If you were at the graduation, I particularly called out social media in my speech. Social media has become an epidemic problem with our young people. We're doing our best. We even provided a workshop for our parents that was not very well attended with regard to how to go ahead and supervise and protect your children, on social media. It's definitely something that we need to continue to address. It's always going to be a challenge. But those particular age groups are the ones most impacted by social media, and that's probably why you see middle school having the highest numbers statewide, high school and intermediate school students being a very close second.
Excuse me, are these the confirmed cases that are up there, or just the reported?
Those are
Neither.
self-assessment
These are
ratings.
These are scores.
Oh, they're just scores?
Yep.
Okay.
These are scores based on,
If you
These
look in your board
criteria.
report and under governance, that gives you our totals for this year.
this is completely separate from our reported or confirmed HIV incidents. This is a scoring matrix provided by the DOE for principals to assess their buildings on overall programs related to really school climate, not just specifically to HIV.
So you're telling us it's because the state wants you to do this? They're making you report this?
We have to
Yes.
Do this
post it on our
assessment.
website.
It's a
Yes.
required assessment that
Well,
you do?
it's a required assessment. Do we have to report it to you? No. But we, as
You
a,
do.
as a
Okay.
board,
But you
that's
have to
our
report it
culture.
to the state.
In our culture here, we report everything to you.
We're required to post it to our website.
Correct.
You
But-
are, and you're
but we-
required to report this to the state? This is something
Yes.
that's a
We're
requirement?
required to report it to the DOE, and we're required to post it publicly to our website.
But you can see that we just got these state results back. It takes the state about a year to turn them around to us. We will be submitting Mr. Glock-Malloy over the summer, right?
We'll compile them over the summer. They'll be presented to the board, most likely
For the
in September.
17-18 school year, we'll present our self-assessments. You'll have that in September. But then it takes the Department of Ed about a year to finalize our grades.
And once again, Dr. Labby, I never miss an opportunity to say this publicly, but you talk about the social media impact. Our children model what we as adults do, and so much and so often we find that comments on social media by adults are setting a poor example for our children.
Particularly those at the highest level, sir.
Okay, anything else on HIB? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Glock-Malloy.
Well
All right,
done,
we have
Mr.
the two
Glock-Malloy.
items under correspondence, and then we have our approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 15th and June 12th, 2018 meetings?
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Walsh. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call on the minutes.
Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bishada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Sack?
Yes. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Labby, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sack. If I can have everyone turn their attention to finance and infrastructure. We have a number of very important items that I do want to discuss. If you allow me to, I apologize. But numbers 13 through 15, we have a couple of resolutions authorizing our business administrator to make a transfer at the end of the year, which is now, of unanticipated revenue or unexpended line item appropriation amounts from the 2017-18 school year to move $1 million into capital reserve, another $1 million into maintenance reserve, and $250,000 into emergency reserve. This is an item that we talked about at previous board meetings. You can find that on pages 3 through 4. Number 18, which can be found on page 5, we're asking you to approve a resolution appointing the Bush Law Group to continue to be the board attorney and provide us with the appropriate professional legal services through June 30th, 2019. Number 19, which also can be found on page 5, I just made reference to it. Actually, I didn't make reference to it, but as well as responsive classrooms, we'll also be providing our cafeteria playground aides with PlayWorks character education workshops. That will actually be in September at the cost noted there, I think $5,000. Number 20, which can be found on page 6, we're asking you to approve a contract with Springboard Education. That is our current before and after care patron. And that will be from July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Numbers 25 through 47, we're asking you to approve both of our consolidated grants, the Elementary Secondary Education Act grant, or Every Student Succeeds Act, I should say, Education Act, for the full year 2019, as well as the full year 2019 IDEA preschool and basic grant. The total for the ESEA full year grant is $843,985. Likewise, the full year IDEA allocation is $1,544,331. You can find all of that on page 6 as well as the addendum. And I apologize, I spelled addendum wrong. Number 26, we're asking you to approve the 2018-19 district tuition rates. You can find those on pages 6 through 7. Number 27, you're asking you to approve a resolution to purchase Cisco network switches and wireless access points, which was a major topic of discussion during our budget hearing. We're also asking you to approve the lease purchasing agreement involved with that at a 0%. And that's from the Delage Landon Public Finance Company. You can find all of that information, though, on pages 7 and 8. Number 32, on page 8, we're asking you to approve athletic admission fees. We did increase the fees for adults by $1. Number 44, which can be found on the addendum, we're asking to award the contract for our auditors to Suppley, Clooney and Company. They're certified public accountants, and of course, their main priority would be to complete the annual audit. You can find that on the addendum. And then finally, numbers 48 through 49, I am proud to announce to you that we have our first bus advertisement. So we're asking you to not only approve that bus advertisement, but to also naturally improve the loyalty agreement that we have with JMI Enterprises with regard to the selling of advertisements, and that would be good from July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. And of course, you can find that in the addendum. Any questions on finance and infrastructure?
Dr. Labby, this would pertain to Ms. Hill. In a cafeteria account, at the end of the year, what's our balance on IOUs and how are we going to collect them?
It's $7,000 right now.
Yeah, right now it's at $7,000. So as of right now, we're going to be implementing the policy that the district approved this past year, which would not allow the students to get their schedules until their balances are paid. So their parents would not be able to access what was Power School, which I believe now, Eric, correct me?
Encourse.
So the parents won't have access to that program until they pay. For the students that have larger balances, I will be pursuing small claims court for the parents.
Okay, I have a couple other questions for you.
But I will say that Mrs. Jenkins and our principals did a great job
They
of
did.
reducing that deficit. I believe it was somewhere around $12,000,
I think even if 14,000.
$14,000, so we
Yeah.
cut it in half.
Number 13 and 14. Initially, I remember that we had made a proposal of at least $2,000. That was a not to exceed $2,000 into the capital reserve account. And then we were talking about another $1 million. Let me correct that number. Another $1 million into this maintenance account. And then 15 turns out to be something new that we've never had before. We've never used it, and I've been on the board since '06, of another $250,000 into another account, emergency reserve account. Just adding the numbers up here, that's $2,250,000.
Yes, that doesn't necessarily mean that we would have that entire amount to put in these. These are just a maximum that we can put in there. The emergency reserve, I believe we talked about it at the last meeting regarding finances meeting. The emergency reserve can be used to purchase security items throughout the year. So there are things that maybe you didn't anticipate, but let's say you need to change out cameras or something like that, you would be able to do a withdrawal. The board could withdraw it and use it for security items at any point.
Is that only reserved to security, or does it include hiring more staff?
It's anything that gets charged to a security line. So technically, we do have things that get charged to security line that are personnel. So in theory, yes, you could. But that's not typically what people use it for, since that's a one-time funding. So then you would run out of funds to maintain the personnel.
So
I don't know.
if you had
Again,
staff,
it's-
it couldn't be picked up by the general fund the next year?
You could if you had the funds, but then you would be looking at you'd have to have additional revenues from somewhere. So either tax levy or additional state aid if we were expecting that.
Right, but if you funded a security guard or something from this reserve for this year, next year, it's okay to put it in the general
Yes.
budget, not,
Yeah.
you don't have to fund it again from
No.
reserve.
And the other item on number 44, why are we changing auditors? I worked with Samuel Klein and Company for quite a few of the audits, and I never had any problems with any of the information or the recommendations that they provided. Looking here, it's only about $625 more than what the lowest bidder is.
Mr. Bishada, if you recall, the auditor never picked up the fact that we were not in the DCRP program when we should have been in the DCRP program, so that's one of the reasons that's driving that change in auditors.
Well, I'll be voting no on that.
Not to mention, it's cheaper.
Number 44, you can put me down for a no.
Any other questions on finance?
Yeah, I have a question. Why are we raising the fees? Is that just for
The adult, is it?
football, or is it for everything?
Everything, just to be aligned with the county.
So the $4
It was $3, it's now $4,
and the 2 is the same?
same.
So what is it for? Football, what else? Is it for
It's
anything else?
admissions fees, so whatever we charge admissions fees to, for athletic events.
So it would be for
GMC athletic
basketball
events, yes, basketball could be, yeah.
And for
It's
number
aligned to what the
33, is
GMC
there any change in those numbers?
Excuse me?
33, the next one, is there any change in those dollar amounts?
33, those are stipends?
Yeah.
I believe not. No.
Anything else on finance?
Just getting back, you mentioned about they didn't pick that up. Neither did our BA that was prior to this either. Did he
He's not
pick
here
that
either.
up?
And I don't think that's appropriate.
Because that's personnel related.
Exactly right.
Well,
And you are inaccurate as well.
I don't think so.
Well, you're
Well,
inaccurate in your,
regardless, we're not going to be discussing personnel in
Then
public.
I won't.
So thank you very much. Any other fher finance under finance?
I just have one more question. For Dr. Labby, for number 26,
26.
the tuition rates, do you know,
Yes.
are they higher than last year?
To my chagrin, no,
No?
they are not, and I still, to this day, cannot wrap my head around it, and Ms. Hill and I always have pleasant arguments about it. So
They're
I'll
not
let Ms.
lower,
Hill
are
talk
they?
about that.
They're not lower.
They're different than last year, so some of them are higher, some of them are lower. It's all based on the formula that's in the budget software, so it's
So
not
they're
something we
close
set.
to last year's then?
They're pretty close to last year.
No, they're not.
They're
They're
not.
not that far
They're
off.
killing Mr. Nasser and I, because we rely upon those when we do our extraordinary aid.
So if I look at special education, did those go up
No,
or down?
No.
they went down.
They went down.
That's what bothers me the most. Those went down.
Sorry I asked.
Anything else under finance?
I expected you to say
Ms.
they
Hill,
went
just
up.
a note, I need to abstain on the
hoping they
bills
would.
list to check the CME Associates.
Okay.
Dr. Labby, back to you.
Thank you very much. If I can direct your attention to student achievement, number 1 and 2, we're asking you to approve some revised curriculum guides. They're all duly noted there. You can find them on pages 14 and 15, as well as some course title changes. As you can see, Dr. Shediak, our supervisors, and our incredible teachers have been very hard at work writing new curriculum.
Questions on student achievement?
No, but I have a question on finance. I missed it. It was on the addendum. The
No,
ad-
there's no going back.
Yeah, you can
There's
go
no
back.
going
There's
back.
no
Isn't
rules
that
that say you
I thought that was a bylaw. Isn't there a bylaw somewhere about that?
Listen, anything that gets me out of here quickly.
Yes, Mrs. Backo.
I don't have, what is the advertisement for the bus?
Oh,
It says
it's-
attached, but I
it's,
don't have it.
Oh, we didn't bring
Oh, I guess maybe Sharon put it on the portal.
I think it's on the portal.
It's a new appliance store in town on Washington Road. I
Okay.
want to say it's like Happy Home Appliance.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
yes.
where Cooktas used to be, right on.
Oh, okay, all right.
They must have read it in my talk soup. I put that last
I'm
paragraph.
probably dating myself by saying Cooktas.
Gee, sorry, I missed it. No going back.
You don't read those?
I can't go back now and read it. It's too late.
All right, any other questions on student achievement? You can tell it's the end of the school year, folks. Okay, governance.
Okay. Number 2, we're asking you to approve 2 job descriptions. One is new. It's the Assistant Director of Food Services, and the other are changes to our Student Information System Coordinators job descriptions. And primarily, those were being made because we're changing from Power School to On-Course. And we kind of wanted to make them generic in the case that in the near future or the distant future, we go ahead and change student information systems again. Which we are not. You heard that right from Mr. Glock Malloy. And Mr. Woranowitz, let it be known, is nodding his head up and down.
Any questions on governance?
Mr. Coleman's-Berger is sleeping.
Okay, hearing no questions on governance, personnel.
Numbers 9 through 41, 9 and 41, which you can find on page 18 in the addendum, we're asking you to approve to hire new certificated staff for the 2018-19 school year. And number 13, and very importantly, we're asking you to hire Caitlin Zarowski, who will be our new vice principal at Sayreville War Memorial High School. I've got to tell you, I had an opportunity to participate in some of the interviews. I was incredibly impressed and inspired by what Caitlin had to share. She is someone that has superior cognitive abilities. She is very data-friendly, and more importantly, she knows how to analyze data and make very solid education judgment with regard to that. That by far impressed me the most. Along with that, she is Sayreville through and through. She is someone that was born and raised here. And she's also someone that, since she was hired here as a substitute employee, has worked tirelessly to improve her potential as both an educator and a leader, and someone that has really modeled to our employees how you can develop incredible leadership experiences and refine and polish your leadership skills through a variety of different activities within the school on a daily basis. So we are so proud to have the opportunity to recommend to you Caitlin, and I know she's here with her husband Ed, who also works at the high school. So, we're recommending you, Caitlin, to be the new vice principal at the Sayreville War Memorial High School. Number 16, we're asking you to approve the transfer of several certificated staff members for the 2018-19 school year. And I would make a point to note, on the addendum number 38, there is a misprint there, and I do apologize for that. It should actually read to be paid 7.5 hours per day. So if you don't mind making that correction for that particular bus driver. So it's number 38 on the addendum. I again apologize for the typo, but it should read to be paid 7.5 hours per day. Previously, it was 7 hours, but it's now 7.5 hours. Any questions, comments on personnel?
Dr. Labby, I'm going to have to comment on 42. I know I sent you a little email on this as well. The in-school suspension teachers, I know this program was put into place somewhere around 10 to 12 years ago, and at that time, the per diem was $150. Now, 12 years later, we're going to offer them a $4.50 per day.
I believe
raise.
that's a 3% increase.
Yes. It just seems a little bit
Again,
small.
I understand it's small, but it's a 3% increase. I duly noted that.
Do you have a problem filling the job?
It's not the easiest job to fill.
But I think this one person's been on this agenda since 12, forever, so obviously there's
Well,
an issue.
One of them's
I think
new.
it's the same
One of
person. I
them's
see all this-
definitely, one of them's new. One of
Yeah,
them,
one of them's new, but one of them, I think, is the original, since we started this. I mean, this person's
I
been
think-
around a long
I
time.
And
mean-
again, if we had given them 3% a year over the years, it would be, but
Well, I
nothing
mean,
was
it-
ever done with this.
it's hard because it's
Yeah.
not it's not a full-time position. It can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a 3% increase is a fair increase. I do understand your point, though.
But I should also mention that both of these are retired certified
Correct.
teachers from this district, so it's not like, a sub or anything.
So how do they get their raises? Just out of curiosity, arbitrarily, we say, okay, let's give them 3, or are they they follow the teachers?
No.
No, they don't follow this. It's just what we determine. And what factored into the decision-making with regard to this was the fact that they haven't had an increase in a while.
Ever.
And that's why we determined 3% rather than 2%.
Any other comments on personnel? Mrs. Zarowski, congratulations on your new position. Certainly wish you well. And I know that you will do well. I also know that there's going to be a whole array of classes that's going to miss having you run the refreshment stand and build the float and supervise the junior prom and the senior prom and all the things that you've done at the high school. But we know that you're going to make a fantastic contribution as a vice principal and that you're going to be a fantastic administrator in the district. Congratulations.
Mr. Zarowski, spend as much time with her as you can because you may not be seeing a lot of her.
And that concludes your superintendent's report.
It certainly does.
Any other comments from the board on the superintendent's report? Okay, hearing none, I'll open it up to public at this time on the superintendent's report. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing none, I will close public, and I'll entertain a roll call. I'm sorry, I need a motion before I can entertain a roll call.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Callahan. Now that I have a motion and a second, are there any remarks? And now I will entertain a roll call.
Mr. Belka?
Okay. A, page 3, number 11 and 12, I'm going to abstain on.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
A, page 3, number 11, 12, abstain.
Okay,
D, number 8, page 18, vote no.
okay,
D, number 14, page 20, vote no on Nicholas Taylor.
okay.
D, number 34, page 27. I'm going to vote no on the Director of Technology and the Student Information Systems Manager. A, number 44 on addendum, I'm going to abstain on.
I'm sorry, say it one more time?
A, number 44 on the addendum,
Okay,
abstain. And C, number 2 on addendum, for no on the Assistant Director of Food Services
Okay.
job description.
Anything else?
Yes, and everything else.
Mrs. Bacco?
Page 3. Number 14, I'm going to vote no. I'm going to do it in page order.
Okay.
I'm going to vote no on number 32, page 8. And that was the fees.
Okay.
Page 18, number 7 and 8.
Is that a no or?
No, page 20. Nicholas Taylor. Because of step H.
Number 14?
It's number 14,
Okay.
the step H one.
Okay.
And page 27, number 34, Director of Technology. And on the addendum, number 44, the auditor. I agree with Tom, I don't see any need to change. And for page 2, number 2, the Assistant Director of Food Services, the creation of that new job.
Any other items? Mr. Bishada?
Number 15, I'll be voting no on page 4. Page 18, I'll be voting no on 7 and 8. Page 20, Mr. Taylor, I'll be voting no on. Spring strengthening and conditioning on page 24, Mr. Began, I'll be voting no on. On the addendum, as I mentioned, I'll be voting no on number 44. And under governance, page 2, I'll be voting no on the Assistant Director of Food Services. And on the attachment E, the Director of Technology, I'll be voting no on.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes, but I have to abstain on number 47, approval of lunchroom aids.
Okay. Mr. Esposito?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Okay, any committee reports? I know we just met 2 weeks ago, so there may not be any additional committee reports. Okay, the delegate to the New Jersey School Boards Association, the only thing I'm going to report on is we're anxiously awaiting the outcome of the budget debate, which is going on, and what that's going to end up meaning for public education and funding. We may end up having some meetings in early July, depending on what happens with regard to school funding, but we're going to just wait and see and go from there. It's the same thing that happened last year. Anything else for discussion? I think, Dr. Labby, we wanted to talk about rescheduling the board meeting from July 17th to July 24th.
Correct.
Is anyone opposed to rescheduling that meeting from July 17th to July 24th? It's the following Tuesday. And even though Dr. Labby mentioned it in his highlights, it was actually my suggestion. I just thought it would be better to wait an extra week for Dr. Labby's return to get things organized and ready for the board meeting.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll need a motion for that, Ms. Hill, correct?
I
Or
won't
no?
be here, so.
I don't think so, but it wouldn't
No.
hurt.
Okay, can I have a motion then for, well, you can't be here on the
I can
20,
be on the 24th.
just, you're out that whole week, or,
Monday and Tuesday. I'm off the 23rd and 24th. I won't be here.
25th? Did anyone have a problem with that? I mean, I'd rather see if we can get everybody if we can.
Okay, 25th, okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to
I won't be
reschedule.
here the 25th, I'm sorry. I have a zoning board meeting.
How about the 26th?
26th, hold on.
The 26th.
Thursday.
I like that better than the 25th.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And before anybody else looks at the calendar, I'll entertain a motion to move the July 17th meeting to Thursday, July 26th.
6:30?
That requires someone to say so moved.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second by Mrs. Blue.
It is summer.
It'll be a 6:30 start,
Till
yes.
6:30.
And then 7:30 for our public session.
So then student achievement, we can continue to keep that on the 24th?
Yes.
Yeah? So that would not be effective. Good.
Okay, hearing no further comments, all in favor of rescheduling the meeting? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Bloom, did you have something, or?
Yeah, did we look at rescheduling the finance? Because I think I told you I would be here when you set it up.
Do you want to do that the 17th?
The next one, I sent you guys an email on that.
Finance?
So you can, you can work it out and get back to me. Not a
Can
big deal.
we do that on the
I'm going on the
17th?
17th, if you want to do it.
Oh, wait, I don't think she.
Oh, Lucy, you're not here on the
No, I
17th,
won't
right,
be
yeah.
When are you back? We have
Lucy,
time.
can we
It's
do
almost
it,
before the
can we do it,
26th.
can we do it at 5:30 or 6 o'clock on the 26th?
Yeah, we could.
Mr. Esposito, does that work for you?
There's not that much to cover? I mean, I hate to squeeze it in half an hour. It'd be quick? Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, I think.
Listen, it
most
all
likely
depends on the state
following
aid piece, too. If that
Right.
shifts, you could be meeting for 3
We
days.
could put that in for now, and if we need to move it,
Okay.
we'll do that.
So we
How's
want
that?
to do it
What time,
before the board
is it
meeting.
5:30 or 6
okay?
o'clock? 5:30?
What do you want to do?
Right.
5:30, I'm
Can you
here,
make
so-
5:30?
I'll come here at 5:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other items of business for discussion? Hearing none, I'll open up to public for any item concerning the school district. Hearing none, I will close public. Have a wonderful summer, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you in July.
Wait, can I get you want a motion to
What?
close?
What?
Oh, sorry, were you closing already?
I was going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Yes,
Can I have a
5:30.
motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Mr. Walsh, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Callahan, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. But thank you for keeping me honest.